How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, April 11th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Thiago Alcantara, the elite Spanish midfielder for Liverpool, turns 31 today, and what I'm going to do with this episode is do a in-depth review at what Thiago has done in his career at the senior level in order to make it here, where he is established as one of the best all-around midfielders in the game of soccer. If you're not familiar with Thiago, he stands at about 5'9". I would say his game is best described by his poise and his composure in high pressure situations. A lot of being a midfielder is really kind of assessing a dangerous situation and really kind of getting your team to the next step out of it, whether it be defending, whether it be passing, whether it just be like spacing the field. I think that Thiago just has a sixth sense, and he actually happens to be a step quicker than a lot of other midfielders when it comes to really getting there, which is why I think gives him the edge when we're talking about a sport where he's been so dominant, where you have hundreds of thousands of professional athletes that are competing to be on the same field. So, of course, I digress, getting into the story of Thiago. He was originally born in San Pietro in Italy. However, he would go on to, this is when his father was playing in Italy. He was a member of the Brazilian national team. However, he would go on to make Spain his national team as he would come up through the Barcelona youth system. He would, of course, get promoted to play for Barcelona for the very first time in his age 17 season in 2008-2009. But even just looking at that season, I would imagine that he would still definitely count that season. He would make his debut, and in that age 17 season, he would play one Barcelona game in a season where they would go on to win La Liga that year. This would go on to be the year where they would win the Copa del Rey final against Athletic Bilbao, not to mention that they would go all the way to the Champions League final, and they would go on to beat Manchester United in the final. But of course, Thiago was he was a teenager coming up on that team, and he was able to really make his game where it was. But within that season, he would he would kind of see the bench for a lot of it, but of course, in that next year would kind of be a lot of the same. His age 18 season in 2009-2010. But of course, you would expect that as, of course, Barcelona was one of the top teams in the world. In his second season there, he would finish with a goal in the one game he played, as he only played one La Liga game within that season, as Barcelona would go on to win La Liga for the second year in a row. They would win the Supercopa de España that year, not to mention after winning the UEFA Super Cup and FIFA Club World Cup. They would get knocked out of the Copa del Rey in the round of 16, and they would lose in the Champions League semifinals. Yet Thiago was still a teenager that was still kind of getting his time kind of divided. His age 19 season at Barcelona would see him divide his time between the Barcelona A team and the Barcelona B team. He would play 11 games for the B team with 6 assists in that stretch, as he would play 12 games for the A team, finishing with a couple of goals within that season itself. Outside of that, Barcelona would go on to compete at the Supercopa de España, as he would go on to play one game in that season. But even within that season where he was playing in between the two teams, FC Barcelona would go on to win La Liga. They would, within that Supercopa de España, they would go on to beat Sevilla all the way in the finals. This is when they had Messi and Zlatan. They would also go on to win Champions League in 2010-2011, as they would go on to beat Manchester United in the finals, as Thiago Alcantara was actually a part of that Champions League run. He played one game in that stretch, and in the one game he played, he would go on to finish with an assist. However, Thiago would see himself break through to the actual Barcelona team in his fourth season there, in his age 20 season in 2011-2012. In that season, he would go on to start 20 of the 27 La Liga games he played, in a season where Barcelona would finish as runners-up in La Liga. In addition to that, they would go on to win the UEFA Super Cup after winning Champions League the year before. They ended up beating Porto 2-0. They would go on to win the FIFA Club World Cup as they would beat Santos from Brazil. I think this is the year where they would beat Neymar. Not to mention that they would go on to win the Supercopa de España versus Real Madrid this year. Also within this season, they felt in the semifinals of Champions League, but they were able to win the Copa del Rey as they won that one 3-0. That would be a very big season, especially when it came to winning trophies for Thiago, as that would be his second to last season in Spain. Looking at what his last season in Spain would be in his age 21 season in 2012-2013, in his fifth season with the Barcelona club, he would start 15 of the 27 matches he played in La Liga, and a season where Barcelona would go on to win La Liga. This would be the fourth time they won in a 5-year stretch, with the most points that they would have won it by. That would be the only trophy that they would win that year. He would finish with 2 goals and 4 assists, specifically within the La Liga season. Not to mention that he would go on to play 2 Champions League games in a Champions League run. That would see Barcelona go all the way to the Champions League quarterfinals. They made it to the semifinals again. And once Barcelona would make it to the semifinals, Barcelona would find themselves losing to Bayern Munich, who would go on to beat Borussia Dortmund in the final. After that season, Thiago Alcantara would go on to sign with Bayern Munich. And his very first season with Bayern Munich would be his age 22 season after he signed a 22 million euro fee. But after getting knocked out by Bayern and joining them, Thiago's very first season with Bayern would be his age 22 season in 2013-14. In his very first season in the Bundesliga, he would start 11 of the 16 games he played. And of course, remember, this is Bayern, so this is right off their championship win where they had Toni Kroos, not to mention Bastian Schweinsteiger, like the best midfielders, some of the best midfielders in the world. So of course, he had a lot of competition, but he was still able to play those 16 games as he had 2 goals and 4 assists within the Bundesliga itself. He would go on to play 2 games in a DFB Pokal stretch that would see Bayern win that. And this would be not to mention that 2013-14 was the second year in a row in which Bayern would win the Bundesliga. And they're still in the midst of that Champions League winning, or of that Bundesliga winning stretch now. Also, Bayern would fall in the semifinal round of Champions League because this was the year after they won. This particular year within Champions League, Bayern Munich would find themselves falling short. The team that they would lose to in Champions League would end up being Real Madrid. But following that season, Thiago Alcantara would return for a second season at Bayern in his age 23 season there. But before he played, he would have made the provisional team for the World Cup in 2014, but he withdrew because of a knee injury. And of course, that knee injury would carry on into his second season with Bayern as he started 2 of the 7 games he played. Even though he missed a good chunk of the season, Bayern would still go on to win the Bundesliga for the 3rd year in a row. That would be the only trophy that Bayern would go on to win. This would transition into Thiago's 3rd season with Bayern Munich, his 8th season as a pro, and his age 24 season in 2015-16. In the Bundesliga, he would start 16 of the 27 games he played in a season where Bayern Munich would win the Bundesliga for the 3rd year in a row. This, of course, would be the 7th domestic title that Thiago had won in his 8th full season as a pro. He would go on to start 16 of the 27 matches he played specifically within the Bundesliga, as he would go on to finish with 2 goals and 3 assists. In 2016, Thiago would also play 5 DFB Pokal matches in a stretch that would see Bayern Munich go all the way to the end and actually win the DFB Pokal. Once they won, they would go on to beat Dortmund 4-3 on penalty kicks in the Pokal. And then once they made it to the DFB Super Cup, they actually lost that one to Wolfsburg, but they would go in Champions League and they would actually lose in the semifinal round to Atletico Madrid. But that would be specifically how this 2015-16 season came to an end. And once the season came to an end, Thiago would compete with Spain for the very first time on the international level at the Euros in 2016. And once Spain made it to the Euros in 2016, this would come after they had won in 2008 and in 2012. Looking for the three-peat, they would go on to make it out of their group stage after beating the Czech Republic 1-0. They beat Turkey 3-0, and they would end up losing to Croatia 2-1. In the knockout phase, they would actually get knocked out 2-0 by Italy. So that would be the end of Spain's run, but this would be Thiago's very first taste of international competition while playing with Spain. But following this season, he would go on to return for his fourth season in Bayern Munich. And in that season, he would go on to start 26 of the 27 games he played in a season where Bayern Munich would repeat as champs for the fourth year in a row while Thiago was there. This would be the fifth year in a row that they would win the Bundesliga title. And this would be the fifth year, or I guess this would be the fifth year in a row that Thiago was able to win a domestic title, as this streak would go on back to his last year in La Liga. In the Bundesliga, he would finish with 6 goals and 5 assists. That would be his career high in goals and his career high in total scoring plays. Looking at how he would fare for this Bayern team, he would also add a goal and an assist in a DFB Pokal run that would see Bayern Munich fall in the semifinal round. As within this tournament, they would end up losing to Dortmund by a goal. They would go on to beat Dortmund in the Super Cup this year, and in Champions League, they would lose to Real Madrid 6-3 on aggregates in the semifinals. But that gives you a good idea into how well they were doing. But still, Thiago on the Bundesliga level was able to show how dominant he really could have been, as Bayern was a very well-oiled machine because Thiago was running it from the middle. And then, of course, this would transition into his 5th season with the Bayern team. In his age 26 season in 2017-18, Thiago would start 12 of the 19 Bundesliga games he played for a Bayern Munich team that would win the Bundesliga for the 5th year in a row. This would be the 6th year in a row that he would win the title and the 6th year in a row that Bayern Munich would win it. Within the Bundesliga season itself, he finished with a couple of goals and a couple of assists, as he was dealing with yet another injury this year. He would finish with 2 goals and 2 assists in the 3 DFB Pokal games he played, as Bayern Munich would actually finish as runners-up in the DFB Pokal this year. They ended up losing to Eintracht Frankfurt, so that's where their season would end. But once it got there, they would also go on to lose in they lost in Champions League to Real Madrid for the 2nd year in a row. But this would really result to the end of that season. But they would still go on to win the They want to win the Bundesliga, as Thiago also added 3 goals in the Champions League this season. But once this season came to an end, Thiago would compete with Spain at the World Cup for the very first time, because he was supposed to play in 2014 but missed it due to injury. In 2018, Spain would make it out of their group stage after drawing with Portugal and Morocco. They would then go on to beat Iran. They would end up losing in the round of 16 to Russia, as they ended up losing on penalty kicks, as Russia was also like the home country. But that would be a very big matchup in terms of what happened in the World Cup. But that would be the last time that he's competed with Spain in the World Cup. I imagine he's going to compete with Spain in the 2022 World Cup later this year. But following that season, Thiago would return for his age 27 season, his sixth season in Bayern Munich. In his 11th season as a pro in 2018-19, he would start 26 of the 30 Bundesliga games he played in a season where Bayern Munich would go on to repeat as champions of Germany for the 6th year in a row since he had been there, and for the 7th year in total at that point. His 30 games in the Bundesliga would be the only time he's played 30 games in a domestic season. He will go on to finish with 2 goals and 6 assists. His 6 assists are his career high within a domestic season. With taking a look at how he was able to do outside, he would play 6 games in a DFB Pokal run that would see Bayern Munich go all the way to the end and would see them beat RB Leipzig in the final. Bayern Munich would go on to win the Super Cup that year versus Eintracht Frankfurt as well. Once they made it to the Champions League, however, they would end up losing in the first round to Liverpool. That would be how Bayern's season would end. And then following that year, that would lead into Thiago's 7th and final season with the German clubs. And this would probably go down as one of Bayern's best seasons ever. In his 7th season with Bayern and in his 12th season as a pro and his age 28 season in 2019-20, Thiago would start 20 of his 24 Bundesliga matches in a season where Bayern Munich would repeat as champions of the Bundesliga for the 8th year in a row. I was even able to see Bayern Munich win a game in this stretch within the Bundesliga itself. They would go on to win that trophy there. They would go on to win the I guess not to go on to mention, they would go on to win the DFB Pokal this year as they beat Leverkusen. This would also be a season in which they would go on to make it all the way to the Champions League final. And this is a season that, of course, was affected by COVID, where it delayed the end of the season, but they were still able to play it, and they even made sure that every single match, every single round after the round of 16 in Champions League was just one leg. Within that particular tournament, Bayern would go on and beat Paris Saint-Germain in Champions League. That would be the first time that Thiago had won Champions League with Bayern. And then looking at the total times, this would go on to be the second time that he's been on a Champions League winning club. The last time that he had done it was back in Barcelona back in 2011 in his second to last season there. Or I guess his third to last season there. But this, of course, would transition into Bayern going on to win the Super Cup and the FIFA Club World Cup. However, after Champions League, Thiago would be signed by Liverpool. So that is the team where he is actually currently playing to this day, who signed a 4-year contract with only a year left in his Bayern contract. Looking at how Thiago would fare in his very first season in Liverpool, in his age 29 season last year, the last full season that he played, Thiago would go on to start 20 of the 24 Premier League games he played in a season where Liverpool would go on to finish third. This would be the first time since 2012 that Thiago wasn't on a league-winning championship team. This would, of course, end Thiago's 8-year stretch of being on a championship team. But all the less, Liverpool would still be a very dominant team within this last year. They would not go on to win any titles, but the closest they would come was the Community Shield, which is the English Super Cup. They would end up drawing with Arsenal, but Arsenal would end up beating them on penalty kicks to advance and win. But looking specifically at how Thiago fared within his first Liverpool season, he was able to score a goal. Not to mention that he was the only goal that he would score that year would be in Premier League. He played a couple of FA Cup matches in a season where Liverpool would finish in the 4th round. He would play a couple of Champions League matches. He played 4, as a matter of fact, in a season where Liverpool would actually get knocked out of the quarterfinal round. The team that would knock Liverpool out in the quarterfinal round was Real Madrid. Real Madrid would lose in the semifinals to Chelsea, and Chelsea would win the entire tournament. But that is how Liverpool's season would end. But that would be the last full season that he would play, as this, of course, would transition into the last summer where Spain would compete in the Euros. It was supposed to be for 2020, but of course, COVID would delay the tournament by a year. They would make it out of their group stage after drawing with Sweden and Poland and then beating the snot out of Slovakia 5-0. Once they made it to the knockout phase, Spain would end up beating Croatia 5-0 as this matchup went to extra time. In the quarterfinals, they ended up beating Switzerland on penalty kicks. And then in the semifinals, they would end up losing to Italy 4-2 on penalty kicks, as Thiago was one of the players on Spain that actually made his. That is the last time that Spain has competed on a big international contest like that. This year they will be competing in the World Cup. So hopefully next year, if Thiago has a profile, I will mention how Spain is faring within the World Cup. But of course, this leads us to where we are right now, as Thiago is in the midst of his age 30 season, as Thiago does turn 31 today. So far, Thiago started 13 of the 19 Premier League games he's played for a Liverpool team that is only sitting 1 point behind Premier League leading Man City. They are very much in this, as this could be the very first season that Thiago can win a Premier League title. In the Premier League, he's been able to add a goal and an assist, or 2 assists where he could. He's even played a couple of FA Cup games in a season, as Liverpool is still really trying hard at that. And not to mention that he's played 6 Champions League games for a Liverpool team that at this moment is still competing for their very lives in this Champions League quarterfinal round. They're already currently up on their aggregate against Benfica 3-1, as their next matchup will take place on Wednesday. So they're still alive within this international tournament. But this should give you a sense of where these teams are currently sitting, but where Thiago's teams are currently sitting. Not to mention that Spain is ready to compete at the 2022 World Cup. The two teams, or I guess they're going to be in the same group as Germany, Japan, and it looks like they're going to face off against the winner of one of the CONCACAF playoff games within North America. So, of course, many people are going to be looking forward to that. But that is currently where we are, as we are here at Thiago's 31st birthday. I think that he's been a player that's been a sign of just consistency and sustainability. And considering he plays center mid, a position where you really just need stability and you just need someone that you know can get the job done, I think that Thiago does his job and he performs it and maintains a level of consistency at a level that not many other players can even do if they tried, which is why I think that Thiago is one of the elite players going into this year. And I think that going into next year, I think it'll be a very good chance that I keep him here. I implore you to get to look at Thiago if you ever get the chance. He's currently wearing number 6 for Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken. And he's wearing number 10 he's worn number 10 for Spain sometimes, but don't take my name for that, or don't take my word for that. But of course, if you ever get a chance, please do. But I do think that Thiago is one of the best when it comes down to it, and I can't wait to see what he does in the next coming days and over the next calendar year. Thanks for listening. I hope all is well. I want to thank the Pro Football Reference websites, the Footy Stats, and the other FIFA articles and databases that I used for these stats and figures. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. And I want to thank everyone one last time. Hope all is well. And I'll catch you with another piece tomorrow. Today is Monday, April 11th, 2021. I'm James Sims. Thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well. And peace out. I'll catch you with more tomorrow.